Welcome to the Refine and Shine, the podcast dedicated to mastering the art of continuous improvement and optimizing every aspect of your life. I'm Angelina Rivera, your host, and together we'll uncover the secrets to refining our lives, our habits, and our processes to unlock our inner brilliance. Join us on Refine and Shine, where we'll delve deep into achieving more in life without the burnout and without all the stress. This podcast is your platform for a more fulfilling life through continuous improvement and personal growth. In each episode, I and a diverse array of guests discuss practical strategies for up-leveling every aspect of your life. From developing good habits and organizing your space to refining your mindset and personal goals, we're going to explore it all. Our guests share personal stories about the systems they've developed or systems they've used and the tweaks they've made in their lives when refinement was needed, allowing them to truly shine. Listen to Refine and Shine to learn how you can implement continuous improvement techniques in your daily routine, develop and maintain healthy habits that lead to success and satisfaction, organize your life to reduce the stress and increase your productivity, foster a growth mindset that propels you to new heights. My mission is to inspire you to take bold action, make positive changes, and become the best version of yourself. Whether you're aiming to elevate your career, nurture meaningful relationships, or enhance your overall well-being, Refine and Shine is your guiding light. With over 25 years of experience in continuous improvement, I help businesses streamline their processes, establish efficient work areas, and implement standard work protocols. I have trained over 600 individuals and teams in process improvement, optimizing workflows, and enhancing overall operational efficiency. Tune in every week as we embark on an enlightening journey, exploring paths to refinement and illuminating the way to shine in every area of our lives. Subscribe now and join us on this journey to polish your life and let your best self shine through. Thank you for joining us on Refine and Shine. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Refine and Shine podcast. I'm super excited to have my guest today on. I've known her for over a decade. We met through, of all things, running back in my running days when I used to be a runner. But we met in a group, in a mom's group, but I didn't really know her story. I mean, we had conversations here and there, but mostly it was about how we probably hated running while we were running. But I just recently found out a little bit about her story. And when I heard her story, I knew that I had to have her on my podcast. And so I'm super excited that we were able to work it out and she was able to get on. But my guest today is Theresa Howard. She is a licensed professional counselor. She's based in Texas, and she's also a certified personal trainer. Outside of her professional work, she's been deeply committed to giving back to her community. She's a co-founder to Legacy CTX, which is a nonprofit established in 2021, where she currently serves on the board of directors. Legacy CTX focuses on enhancing Central Texas through projects like All Abilities Playgrounds, community food pantries, and its signature event, Serena Fest, which is a mermaid-themed festival that raises funds for local initiatives. She also serves on the board of the Heart of Texas Corvette Club, combining her passion for service and connection. Theresa, I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
You are a plethora of things. And so I want to just kind of first start about, if you're okay with it, about just your story. I know that your life has not always been easy. And so one of the things that drew me in is your counseling work and how you became a mental health counselor. But you're not just a mental health counselor. You specialize in suicide, correct?
I specialize in helping those who have lost someone to suicide to grieve and move forward with that loss.
And how did you get into that?
Well, when I was 20 years old, my grandmother committed suicide, and 2 days later, my mother committed suicide. At that point, I was not a therapist. I was in college, and I went into the counseling field, the psychology field, because I was really interested in like profiling criminals more than I was into being a therapist. As time went on, I ended up becoming a therapist. But when my mother committed suicide, it brought my world down, as you can imagine. She was my best friend, and I lost a piece of me that day. And so it's been a long process. I'm not going to say that it wasn't a long process. I remember that day vividly, and then I don't remember much about the first year. Your brain goes into trying to protect itself, and a lot of those memories are lost. And I'm okay with that, right? I don't necessarily want to remember how difficult it was because I know it was. And then I spent about 10 years very, very angry. I was so pissed at my mother for leaving me. I felt very abandoned. And during that time, I graduated from college with a bachelor's degree. I then graduated with my master's degree and kind of set out on my life journey. And it really wasn't until the last about 5 years that I've gotten really into therapy. It was too taxing for me when I was younger. And so I did a lot of other things. I ran businesses. I helped, start up one of the Amazon delivery companies. I um, started a nonprofit. I did a whole lot of other things before I really came to this. And so at one point, my husband had told me, you're looking for something else to do. Why don't you get on BetterHelp? Because, they're in need of therapists. And I was like, okay, well, I'll check it out. And so I get on there and I start doing therapy and I'm like, oh, I'm really connecting with people. I really like this. It's not what I remember. In my 20s, I did therapy with the elderly and I found that it was so taxing. Like I would take the problems home with me and I would be exhausted by the end of the day. And then I felt like I wasn't really any good to anybody because I just was internalizing all of it. But when I started later on in my life, I wasn't internalizing it so much, but I was really able to connect and to help people. And then one day, BetterHelp contacted me and they said, we'd like for you to run a group. Would you be interested in running a group? And you can pick the topic. And I kind of sat back and I was like, well, this is interesting. And I was thinking and I was like, I don't know. And then it clicked and I was like, you know a lot about moving forward with, after the loss of someone to suicide. And that's probably something that people could benefit from. I really had no expectation. I actually thought this group could be a flop. People may not need this. And it's been the complete opposite. I've been overwhelmed by how many people that I connect with on a weekly basis that they've been affected by the loss of somebody to suicide. And they share stories that are similar to mine. They share stories that sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I didn't have it that bad. And it just gives them a safe place to be. And I've really found a passion for doing this. And even though it's been 24 years since I lost my mother and like I'd really gone through the stages of grief, I finally, after 10 years, came out of that anger phase, was able to start forgiving and accepting and seeing it from a different light. But every single time that I meet in this group, there's something about it that it just is fulfilling and it's cleansing and I won't say that it makes it feel like it was worth it because nothing was worth losing my mother, but I almost feel like I'm making somebody's life better because of what I've been through.
I would say that, that's what some of the things that you said. I mean, everything you said is important, but some of the things is like it takes time to heal. It's not a quick fix. There's layers that have to be peeled back. And as you're going through, for 10 years doing all these different things, you're not fulfilling you feel like you probably weren't filling a purpose. You didn't really know what your purpose was. And now you found that there's something, that you have that's this light that's helping others heal the things that you didn't get to go through, the things that weren't there for you that you needed. I mean, to lose your grandma and your mom within 2 days, that's unimaginable. And I think that, I commend you for your strength and to get your bachelor's and to get your master's and to keep going at such a young age. I mean, you said you were 20 and that's a really hard year. I mean, every year is always hard, it seems like, but I mean, that's a really pivotal turning point in your life. You're You're still, not young enough to be considered an adult because you can't drink, right? We're adults, but we can't drink or all of those types of things. You can't do a lot of things, but you're also not a child. And just to be in that middle service of like that stage in life, I mean, that's really, I mean, I commend you for what you've done, and that you had to do the work, and I can also understand the anger of like, how could this happen? How could my mom leave me? Are you an only child?
I am an only child, which made it even more difficult. So it was really just my dad and I who were kind of left to pick up the pieces and grieve and figure our way through what was really a dark time.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Feeling overwhelmed by endless to-do lists and constant distractions? You're not alone. Many professionals and entrepreneurs struggle with never-ending tasks that spill into personal time, difficulty prioritizing what's truly important, a lack of clear structure in their daily routines. Well, let me introduce you to your Unlock Your Time Potential program, an 8-week coaching program designed to help you reclaim your time and boost productivity. What you will gain is proven strategies to manage your day effectively, techniques to eliminate distractions and stay focused, tools to align your daily actions with your long-term goals. Ready to take control of your time? Join the waitlist today and be the first to know when enrollment opens. Don't miss the opportunity to transform your productivity and achieve your goals. Check out the link in the summary notes.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And I really think that, we always try to search for like, what is our purpose, or what makes us like feel like we've accomplished a day's worth of work. And I can also understand when you said that you were like, when you were doing the elderly, you were taking them their problems, and it was like you're stressing, and you're like, when we leave our job, we should be done with our job. But when there's it's a hard time to go through, it's really hard to kind of separate that. And now you can see the light that you're giving others by, the journey that you're helping them to go through, which is not an easy thing. I mean, it's sad to say that I mean, I know is it with the military, I think it's like 22 a day on average commit suicide a day. We belong to a nonprofit, and our goal is to help veterans use remote control cars to help them just get out of their head, something to keep with their mental health. I mean, it's just another tool in the toolbox. And so, but your services, the fact that we have to have these services is sad. And but it is a reality of life, and I really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about all the things that like you help people with. I mean, you do group coaching? Is that how you do it?
For that particular session, it's a group therapy. And so I have people from all over that come to that. It's virtual like this. And I mean, it's not uncommon sometimes for me to have up to 18 people, which I don't love it when it gets that big. But it's really hard to turn people away too, because you know that they need to be there. The smaller groups are just more intimate, and so they get more time to talk. But for that particular subject, yes, I'm in a group setting, and I have people that come in and they've literally lost somebody like that day or the day before or that week. And then I have other people that are like me, that they're coming in and they're like 20 years into it, but they're just now really processing it. And they've, taken that, what happened, and they've put it in a box and they put it on a shelf, and they haven't dealt with it. And now they're realizing that it's impacting their life. And so now they're coming in and they're saying, I need help with this. And one of the most wonderful things about the group is this is a really specific grief. And I don't know how many times I've been told, I've been to other grief groups and they're not helpful. And I get it, if you're sharing in the grief that you lost your grandmother and she died of old age, and then you've got this person over here who's like, I lost my husband and he took his life. Those are not similar at all. And so it's really hard for people to feel heard and to feel understood. And then they're dealing on top of that with going into a grief group, and there's no stigma that surrounds natural death or death by a car accident or, you know, basically anything that's not taking your life. There's no real stigma to that. But you get into a grief group and you're talking about my loved one took their life. People don't really know what to say to that. And sometimes their reactions, even if they don't mean to be, they can be off-putting or hurtful or can make you want to shut down. And so I don't know how many times I've had someone in group say, this is so much different. This is exactly what I needed. I needed people that knew what I was going through, knew what it was like to have this loss, knew how, like, the guilt and the questions and the pain that comes with it. And I love that I create that space for them.
I think that, like what you were like with, if somebody was like cancer or illnesses and things like that, like we kind of know that it's going to happen, right? I mean, one thing we all know is death is our ultimate end, but we hope that it's through old age, But the thing
Right.
is that it's a difference between accidents and all the other things are like, oh, but then somebody choosing to end it. And that's the hardest part because there's no closure. There's no preparedness for what's going to happen. And I think that that's the hardest thing. And it's like, how could they leave us? How could they choose to leave us? And that's really hard because offline, I shared that there's people in my loved ones I know who have been attempted, suicide or, become suicidal or depression. And that's hard to deal with. And it's to try to get them out of that state. And luckily, though, that we knew or I could capture it or understood what they were going through instead of it being too late, too. So that's the hard.
Yeah.
And so, like with your grandma and your mom, was it your mom's mom?
It was.
So that's really hard too, because you not only lost your mom, you lost your grandma. You're the only child. It's just you and your dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a lot. It was a lot. I don't know that people realize that, the majority of people that commit suicide, they have some kind of mental health issue going on, major depression, bipolar, excuse me, schizophrenia, PTSD, problems with alcohol. Those are all things that we see that are the most prevalent in people that take their own lives. I don't know about my grandmother, but my mother had been diagnosed with major depressive disorder. And just knowing that, I can now look back and say, yeah, that was definitely something that was possible, but not that I realized that at the time.
Yeah. Yes. I totally get that. Like, I totally understand what you're saying. Um, with all the things, like, tell me, you have this counseling and you have all these things that you've done. Besides, like what did you go through? Like those 10 years, you said you kind of just worked through things. You went, got your graduated from with your bachelor's, you went through you got your master's. But when did you really start to do the healing? Because like you said, the first 10 years, you kind of didn't really deal with it. You just kept busy. When did you start feeling that you needed to do the healing and walk through it?
I think healing has been an ongoing process. Even when I was my most angry, I was still talking about it. Like I would still bring her up. I would talk about how angry I was. And I think that is really the key to healing. It is talking about it, just not bottling it up, not feeling like I couldn't discharge that energy somewhere. Um, the other part was, and you said earlier, you introduced me as a personal trainer. That has been my outlet for as long as I can remember. I work out to relieve stress. And so the working out was part of the healing too, like getting angry and going to the gym. Sometimes when I would run, I would cry when I ran, or, I would take a long walk and I would just bawl. And so I think even though I was really angry in those 10 years, I was still working on it. I was still working it out. And
Yeah.
um, the most healed I've ever felt, though, was just being able to say, I I don't understand why she took her life, because to me, nothing is so bad that I need to leave. Like, there's always a way out, but I know that that's not what she felt like. But being able to say to myself, I, I I don't know what I don't exactly know what you were feeling, Mom, but and I wish you hadn't gone, but I love you and I'm not mad at you anymore. I know that you did the best you could at that moment, and it was a low moment, and I just forgive you. And when I finally could say that, it was like, oh, okay. And I could feel like the anger just going, but it took a really, really long time. And again, most of it was just talking about it, just, talking to my husband about it, talking to my dad about it, even talking to my daughter. I'm very open with my daughter about it because I don't like the thought of her thinking that there is a stigma about it or that there was something wrong with her grandmother. Her grandmother was a wonderful person. I would have loved for her to know it. And so I want her to know about her grandmother, know that her grandmother would have loved her. But I also want to be very upfront about this is something suicide does kind of run in families. I want her to know that that's there. I also want her to know, hey, come talk to me. You get down, you come talk to me. Don't think that that's all you have, that that's the only road you can take. And so just talking to my family, talking to my friends, being open about it, advocating for people like me that we need outlets too. It's been the most healing thing.
No, yeah, I think that that's so important. And I like what you said. I mean, like just talking about it, talking to others about it and sharing your story is so important because when you push it down, it just makes you, like you talked about earlier, people don't talk about it and talk about it. They kind of avoid it. And then it just makes them, it really makes you sick. It like that stress, look,
It does.
it's like an onion, right? You got to peel the layers off and talking's helping. And I love that you shared about when just saying, I forgive you and I love you. And that saying that to your mom is important. And, you like, that's why, like, for me, when I have like anger and built up, I start to write a letter. That person may never see that letter. I may rip it up after I
Right.
write it, but it helps me voice my thoughts. It helps me take it out of my head, like what I'm feeling, and just putting it on paper. It's like a cleansing feeling. And when we talked about earlier about meeting through running, when I was going through some of my darkest times, that's why I started running. I needed an outlet. I needed something to get me out of my head, get me out of the my space, and not just sit there and do nothing. I had to physically move my body, and that was how I started running. It's just to help me get through that anger that was inside me, and the feelings of hurt and all the other things that I was going through at that time. And it really was a really good outlet. And when my husband, when he stopped, he has mental health issues, and one of the things that helped him get through some of his darkest moments was actually working out.
Yeah.
Was every time push-ups, or every time he felt angry or wanted to do something, he would just start push-ups or something like that.
Yeah. And I don't think people realize that exercise, physical activity is so vital to our mental health. Um, One of the first things that I recommend to clients, whether it's this group or my individual clients, is you get out there and be physical, take a walk, go for a run, go to the gym. And the reason for that is there's actual science behind our bodies release chemicals that mimic a natural anti-anxiety and antidepressant when we work out. And so I'm not a huge advocate for being on medication. In fact, after my mom died, I didn't take anything. I just powered through, and a lot of it was done simply by making my way to the gym regularly. And I really advocate for that as well. It's so important that you do that for yourself because, like you said, for your husband who struggles with his mental health, he's naturally giving himself an anti-anxiety and an antidepressant every time he goes and lifts weights. For you and your running, you are doing the same thing. Every time we do that, we're giving ourselves this natural boost that makes it possible to get through some really tough stuff sometimes.
Yes, absolutely. And I love how you shared that. I mean, like it's that, a lot of people just want to go and think that the drugs are the answer. Like, and yes, there's medicines for, and medicines have some purposes. But, I've had a previous guest where her husband, he actually committed suicide, and he was given an antidepressant for sleeping because he could sleep. And that gave him an out of body experience and had no signs of depression, and committed suicide. And so it's things like that. And when, you find studies, and the studies and the drug companies pay for the studies of it's just all these other things. And like, we're not going to turn it all into that, but it's so important that the first thing is to see if you can do some type of physical activity. I like to garden. Like right now I'm on medical restriction. So gardening is my thing. I can go out there and I can plant flowers, I can water, I can, do different things like that. I'm still moving my body and not just sitting in a state of what's in my head or all of these things. And so I think that's so important. As whatever you can do, you can take a walk. Like I said earlier, we do the RC cars, remote control cars, and driving those little tiny trucks. Actually just gets you like trying to get your truck over a rock. There's so many things that outlets you can do that are helpful and that don't have to cost, money to do either. And it's putting yourself in a healthy state. Like, what is the things that you love to do that bring you joy, that don't cost anything, but you can get you out of that mental state, I think is important.
Absolutely.
I also I like when I found out about your nonprofit, I really would love for you to share a little bit about the nonprofit and what you guys do with that as well.
Yeah, so Legacy CTX was a nonprofit that I started with a friend of mine who lives in town. The original goal was to get this all abilities playground built in our town. It's a really little place, and for years that had been the goal, but it just seemed to kind of not get accomplished. And so we took over Serena Fest and we put it. It hadn't been run previously under a nonprofit, so we wanted to do it the right way. We put it under the nonprofit, started running it that way, and within about a year of us taking over, we were able to get the village of Salado and also like our donors and get enough money to begin the construction of this all abilities playground. And now children of all abilities and even adults can go and they can enjoy this. And so that was a really wonderful contribution back to the community. Now, after that, we didn't really have like a project and my partner came to me and she'd been down to the coast and she was like, "Hey, you know those little libraries that they have where, that they're at your house and you can like you can just go get a book from a little library." And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Well, they have like little food pantries." And so it was like the same concept, but they're food pantries in this community. And I was like, "That's awesome. Let's do that." And so we partnered with Salado High School and some of the ag boys. They built the boxes for us. We gave them the construction materials. They did a wonderful job. And so now we have two little food pantries, and the community helps us keep them stocked. Sometimes we do food drives, but now the last festival, the money that was raised, well, the last two festivals, the money that was raised, we use those to keep it stocked. And then this year, I'm not sure exactly what our project will be, but we haven't really decided.
Well, I think that's awesome. I mean, it's taking like the all abilities playground. That's amazing because there is like, restrictions on people at times, and you made it so that anybody can go and play on this playground, right? And then just
Yeah.
to use this event that you have, that you turned into a nonprofit, or, that way that it's run, is that you can help not in just one way. You're like, what else can we do? And the food pantry, I think, is awesome too. I think that, I mean, it's all the things that you do. And so, I mean, you've got like a plethora of things that you're good at. And I really think that that's amazing. And just to use your mind to help others and see when there's a need that you find a way to help. And I think that's amazing.
That's all my mom. I always said I wasn't going to become my mother, and it was about this year that I realized I have become my mother. My mom was the most generous, giving, caring person. One of the stories I really like to share with her about her is she was she was a foster parent. So for years, my parents did foster care. I cannot tell you as an only child how much I did not like that. I didn't like the thought of sharing my parents. I thought this was an awful thing to do to me. Um, in hindsight, it was a really wonderful thing that they did. But my mom, especially, we had a group of four kids come into our care, and I think when they came, they were 6, 3, 2, and 6 months old, and they were not U.S. citizens, and they were going to get sent back. When their mom lost custody, they were going to be sent back to Mexico. And my mom went to bat for those children. And she eventually got the courts to rule that they could stay in the US. And they found the most amazing adoptive family for those kids. And to this day, I still follow them on Facebook. They're grown-ups, they have their own kids now. I'm so proud of like how they turned out, but I'm really proud of how my mom contributed to their story. And that's the kind of person she was. She just was always giving back. And I didn't really see that I was kind of following in those footsteps until this year. I also figured that out when I was cooking one day, and my mom used to mess with recipes horribly. Like she'd do a recipe and it would be wonderful, and then she'd mess with it until it was like horrible. Like we started with Spanish rice that was delicious, and then we ended up with some concoction that I don't know what it was. And my daughter said to me this year, she's like, would you quit messing with the spaghetti? She's like, you've messed with it to the point that I hate it. And I was like, oh, I am my mother. So there's a part of that that I love, though. Like, I really, I took her for granted when I was younger. I think we do that as, as young adults or teenagers. We kind of take our parents for granted. And later on, we're like, wow, she was this incredible person, or my daddy was this incredible person, and we don't see it for what it was then. But now that I'm a mom, now that I'm in my 40s, now that I look back, I'm like, I'm kind of proud that I'm like you, because you were pretty incredible.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I always used to say like my mom was such a hard worker and I wasn't going to be that hard. And then now my mom's telling me, she's like, you work harder than me. And I'm like, okay. But it's because I'm always like, I always saw her busy, like trying to, take care of multiple things. And she was a single mother for a long time. And to seeing her, trying to make things work. And I'm like, and it gives you that drive, right? So like I feel very driven because of how I saw my mom take things, and handle things. And she always tells me, you need to slow down. I'm like, oh mom, but I got this time. I go because I'm really good at managing my time. So I'm like, I'm able to do all these things because when I'm working on something, I'm working on it. But it was just because of watching her do all these things. Like we would listen to her cassette tapes instead of music while she would record her lectures. And so then I would pick up on the education and want to learn more about whatever she was listening to. But it's just the little things that make you don't realize it. And then you learn later, it makes a big impact on you. So I love that. And then the Corvette thing, I think that's kind of cool because yeah, I love cars. So what do you guys do with your Corvette club?
So I kind of got drug into that whole thing, but then, well, I shouldn't say that. I'm a glutton for punishment, so I will go volunteer myself even when I should be quiet and not volunteer myself for that. It's my mom, right? So my husband, he came from a home where he didn't have much. And he has worked so hard, and I'm so proud of him and all of his accomplishments. And we've really worked as a team seamlessly for years. And we finally got to the point where we had what we needed to buy him his dream car. And I was like, do it, pull the trigger, buy your car. And so he did. And then he started looking at like Corvette clubs. And that's not something I was into. I was just like, okay, we've got the car. I'll ride around with you. I don't know if I want to do anything like with a Corvette club. But he found this Corvette club. And so then he joined it. And I was like, cool, but I'm not going. And then I started going. And so then we're sitting there at the Christmas dinner that they had, and they're like, we don't have an activities director. And, we're not sure what we're going to do without that position. And people weren't really signing up. Sometimes it's really hard to find people to volunteer. And I was like, you just need someone to plan your activities? And they were like, well, yeah. And I said, I'll do that. I'll be your activities director. And so there I go, volunteering myself for something else. And so I've made time for it. And I really like it. Like, I love planning out our little routes. And so basically, that's what I do. I find a new place that the club hasn't gone, and I plan out a route where we can take a nice scenic drive. And then we get there and we do the activity. This weekend, we're going to go to the Hearne, Texas prisoner of war camp. I didn't even know there was a prisoner of war camp until my husband and I were exploring one day, and I saw that and I was like, that's really interesting. Let's go see the history on that. And it's a nice scenic drive. And so it's something that, even though Corvettes aren't necessarily my jam, it's still a way to be connected to my husband just by planning the activities for the group. And it's fun.
I love that. That's kind of how I got into the RC group. I was like, I really don't want to do that. And then I was like, I had my own little truck, but then I went one day we were doing a fundraiser, and then I was like, oh, this is how you guys got to organize it. And now every time they come in down for this annual event, I'm the one that has to I set up the booth and all the things. But they go through inductions to be in this group. And so last year at the annual event, I got inducted. So now I'm officially a member, not just my husband's wife. I'm actually a member too. So but it's good, but that's a gift, right? When you have a gift and you use it, God gives us all these gifts, and your gifts to plan activities, and you're using that gift and you get to spend time with your husband and you get to explore new places. It's using our gifts.
It's a win-win.
Yeah. Well, I love that you have, all the things that you shared. I mean, you're able to, to be a counselor with a very specific niche, and then to have, this nonprofit that you're a part of, and then also having, I think that's very important that we, as to have a working marriage, is that you do things with your husband, and you have this club that you guys are a part of and get to do things together too. And so I think that that's amazing. And then you still make time you got your personal training that you also do. So you have all these great things. Before we wrap up, though, a little bit about your personal training. Do you do that also online, or do you physically go and work out of a location?
No, there's a gym here and I have clients. I've actually cut back a lot on that before, I would say several months ago. I've been doing it for about 3 years, and I was doing it every single day. But when the work that I've been doing with suicide survivors took off, I cut it back to just working with clients on Mondays and Fridays because I really wanted to dedicate my time to that. I'm also in the process of writing like not like a survival guide, but kind of like a workbook to help people that have lost someone to suicide. I'm in the process of writing that so that there's something out there for them to get their thoughts down with prompts and other personal experiences. And so I needed more time to dedicate to that. So I had to cut back on the personal training, but I still do incorporate it twice a week because it is important and I do love my clients. So I couldn't just say no.
I love that. And I love the thing that you talked about, the workbook, or like the journal prompts and all the things like to help you get in that space to write. And so I would love to have you on again when that gets released, and so we can share a little bit about it as well.
It's going to be a minute.
That's okay. My podcast is going to be on for years.
Oh, yes. Good.
No, I love that. But before we wrap up, I always love to ask my guests, what's something that they can do, an action they can take, a word, a phrase, or just something that they can do in order to refine and shine today.
Can I tailor it specifically to people who've lost someone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So for people that have lost somebody, and it doesn't have to be to suicide, just if you've lost somebody, baby steps. When you're going through grief, sometimes the only way to make it to the next day is to give yourself that permission to baby step it and say, I'm only going to worry about today and I'm not going to worry about tomorrow until it gets here. And as you do that, you'll slowly build up to being able to plan for a couple days out or 3 days out to a week out to a month out to finally long-term planning again. But giving yourself permission to baby step it for a while can really be key in success in moving forward. I don't like when people use the term get over because we never get over those losses. We just move forward with them. Be kind to yourself and baby step it so that you can shine later on.
I love that. I love that. I think it's so important. And there was something that you had said earlier about, and I'm not sure what particular part you said it, but it was just like getting, like, and what it made me think of, and I don't even remember, I should have wrote it down, but something about moving your body or doing the things like even just making your bed in the morning. Like if you just can make your bed in the morning, that's a win. If that's all you can do, because that means you're a finisher and you can get things done. If it's that one step that you can do, that baby step, I think is so important. And I love how you wrap that up, like, just baby steps, one day at a time. And don't worry about, the next day. Just take it in, and what you can do that one day, I think is important. So thank you so much. And
thank you.
I will be sharing all your links in the show notes, but I do appreciate you. And I thank you for everything that you've shared and just all the things. And it just shows that, that there can be things that can happen in your life, really hard things. And for you, it was like not just one thing, it was two things in a matter of 2 days. And how you can make something to help others learn to go through the hard things that you had to go through and make it a little bit easier for those people to shine today. And not only that, you use your abilities to do the nonprofit and help others. And you're constantly giving back to the world. And I think that's important. So thank you for being you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Refine and Shine. We hope you find valuable insights and inspiration to fuel your journey of continuous improvement. Remember, the key to success lies in refining your processes and letting your inner brilliance shine. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Your feedback is greatly appreciated and helps us reach more listeners like you who are eager to refine and shine in all areas of life. Stay connected with us on social media for updates and additional resources and behind-the-scenes content. We love hearing from our listeners, so feel free to reach out with any suggestions, questions, or success stories you'd like to share. As we wrap up, remember that the power to transform your life lies within you. Keep striving for growth, embracing change, and seeking opportunities to refine your skills. Together, let's continue to shine bright and make a positive impact in the world. Until next time, keep refining and keep shining.